Good afternoon, everyone. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll keep it short. 5 years ago, I ran into Mr. Keshe. The reason for that was I was asked to do an article on free energy. I said, well, that's quite simple, you know. I can be very honest, because there is no free energy. So this article will be very short, just one line: there is no free energy. And, well, you can imagine I had a bit of a problem writing this article. So I thought, well, perhaps I need to interview someone who is doing this stuff, you know. It's difficult to find some people who are into this business and free energy, and they want to come forward and to explain what they're actually doing. So I was looking around, trying to get some people in America, but you know, that's a long flight, so no, not America. There must be somewhere here in the Netherlands or wherever, just around, someone who can me explain a bit more about free energy. I couldn't find him. Then at one point I walked into a press room of a show, a bit like this, yeah, and there was a press room, and I walked in, and I found a man sitting there, and he was explaining something. And the way he was explaining something was a bit weird, because he didn't have press releases, or he didn't have specific, you know, typical business type of stuff around him. No, he was having this cola bottle, and he was carrying around with wires, and he had multimeters, etc. And I didn't know who it was, and I was not invited for that party. So when I got home, I Googled cola bottle, free energy, etc. And the first hit was a certain Mr. Keshe. And I didn't know who it was, but I got in contact with him, and we met up in Antwerp, and that was, I think, 5 years ago now. Over the years, we had different conversations about what he was working on. I can be honest, I don't understand at all what is this going about. And if someone here in the room is capable of what is going on, you know, you've got my vote. But no, it's difficult to understand what exactly is going on. But the results were, you know, strange and intriguing. You know, he showed a couple of things which I said, okay, what is this? We cannot explain this by the typical natures of electricity or energy or whatever. So we kept our conversation going, and at some point we said, okay, well, demonstrate us now something which, you know, which we understand. So have something moving, or give some light to some electronics or whatever. And I remember we were with a small group in our laboratory for Elector, which is, by the way, a magazine on electronics. To be honest, I don't think a lot of people here in this room ever been reading the magazine. Can I just ask, how many people have been reading Elector magazine? Whoa, not too bad, not too bad. But we invited Mr. Keshe over in our lab and said, okay, show us what you have. And he showed us a couple of things and said, okay, well, that's interesting. And we actually could not explain what we were seeing. In the preparation of this event, Electro Live, I thought, well, perhaps this might be an opportunity to ask Mr. Keshe and to ask him to take the stage and to simply show and demonstrate what he's been working on over the years. And so that is basically it. You know, it's a platform, the floor is free to have a look at something which perhaps you've never seen before, or to hear things which you've never seen before. And that is, you know, that is an adventure, because then you start thinking different. So you probably all know him, but I'd still like to introduce Mr. Keshe to the stage and ask him to do his presentation. Give him a hand.
Can you hear me? Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for coming. As Mr. Hettinger said, the conversation is always about energy. To us, in Keshe Foundation, we don't look at energy the way you do. In a way, you look for a free energy, you look for a generator, you look for a lamp or a battery. We look at energy as a spectrum of energy. How your body works uses energy, how energy is generated in the universe, and how we can use part of it, which we don't know, or the other people think they don't know, and we call it a free energy because it's literally like a magic box. The thing is, everything is there. It's just how you take it out of your pocket, which changes the scenery. And what it means is that there's a lot of talk about free energy. The ones who manage to break through and they call it a free energy, they are the ones who manage to go to a slightly higher dimension of the magnetic field and slow it down enough that it becomes feasible and tangible to us, that we call it electricity. In the universe, energy is everywhere. It's not just a matter of point of a body. It's not a matter of point of in a planet or in a generator. So Keshe Foundation is mainly based on the space technology. We are not here to compete with power producing companies. We are not here to compete with the pharmaceuticals. But I brought the knowledge from the space technology. It's taken me over some 40 years of research into medical application. We saw strange things. We took it back into space and motion. We've developed it to a very high standard at the moment. But the strange thing is, the whole of the Keshe Foundation, the whole of my work coming to be where I am today, in reality, it started from this city, Eindhoven. And in a way, it's done a full circle. It's come back to Eindhoven to be presented this way. I got introduced to the world of radiation at the age of very young, 7, 8 years old, by my father, who was part of the Philips International X-ray division. And now, most probably, if you are from Eindhoven and this part of Holland, your forefathers who worked with Philips has something to do with what you hear today. So we are literally coming back a full circle. It is interesting to understand that Keshe Foundation does not work on the basis of the dreams and unreal things. Space health is one of the main part of our project, which covers a small part of the project. What this health means? It means how we can transfer energy within the body. How can we use the energy of the body to allow the body to do the processing itself? We don't heat, we don't treat. If you go on the internet with the Keshe Foundation, you see a lot of videos. We start putting information in a visual way. Keshe Foundation used to be a very what do you call it, private kept type of organization. And now, in past more or less 12 months, new flush blood has come in, which means I've started handing over my knowledge, my technology, and the running of the foundation to the people, because the foundation belongs to you, not to me. I'm just a caretaker. So we are allowing the new generation to take over, and you've seen what they've done in past 2-3 months. They've changed the website. They brought new dimension. There are new talents which are coming in, which brings the foundation to where we see it in public, where we're giving a lot of presentations around Europe. And in so many ways, we have what we tried. We sat with governments for years, and the only thing they did, they shut us up because it was too good to endanger a lot of people. We brought the knowledge to the public. And now we see we don't even have enough time to see enough people with it. Everything goes back to energy. So the only strange things which we do, and people think we do miracles, is we have understood the structure of atom in its real sense, not in a forced sense, which we've been forced to accept. What this means is that in the atoms, they tell us in the world of electronics, in the world of physics, I'm a physicist, I'm not a doctor, that a proton and you have an electron. And then we go back and ask people who've been to my presentation know what I'm talking about. We ask people, we ask scientists, we had physicists in our presentation. We ask them, what is an electron? They say, we don't know. We know when we look on the electronic gadgets that there is a fuzzy white thing which moves around. That's all we see. But this what has been made a mystery for us. In reality, I always explain it in a very, very simple way. Then by the time I finish, you'll be as good electronic and nuclear physicist as I am. We say this is a neutron. In the physics, we say when a neutron splits, it creates electron and a proton. And if we say this is a neutron, and part of it becomes proton, and the other part, a small part of it becomes electron, and then you ask a physicist what's in there, he says, I don't know. It's the same thing in a smaller quantity. So for the first time, we understand that the electron is a plasma itself. It's very much like proton. So in reality, understanding that electron is a plasma itself, when I use the plasma for heavier jobs, lifting, production of energy, I go to the bigger brother. When I want to use it for the body, I go to the smaller one. Because if I use the heavier one for the body, I destroy the body. And that is where it comes, and what Mr. Hettinger said, we don't understand what he's talking about. Now you understand what I'm talking about. So this has been the whole mystery of what and how we play the game. So in so many ways, in our space technology, NASA uses tons of fuels to payload a few kilograms. We use very, very, very few atoms and protons, literally, to lift a few thousand kilos. It's been done. Very soon we will show you. It would have been shown today, but we couldn't. But in simplicity, what you see as an electron as a spherical shape, it never starts as a spherical shape. The whole concept of physics has been put in the wrong way, and by writing 3 books, I'm trying to put it in the right way, and then one of the reasons a lot of doctors are supporting us now, because they can see the reality of how the right way works. In the physics, you always look at one thing, one structure. This is a magnet. In the universe, we never see magnets like this. Rays travel straight line, but magnetic fields never. The minute magnetic fields come in touch with each other, you find out that somehow the fields interact. And the minute they interact, they come in touch with each other to interact, they will go in one position or another. It doesn't matter which way they are going. Usually, the same strength interact with each other. It's like, as we say, birds go with birds, lions go with lions. So it's the same thing applies in the universe. So as the fields interact, you find the fields always try to close to each other. They make a full circle. So what happens in the universe, because the field they try to close, it ends up to be a circle. Atom is circular. Earth, which has got a gravitational magnetic field, has a circular shape. Proton is circular. Our universe has near circular shape. So the rest is the quantity in the entity. The smaller magnetic fields, the smaller amount is an electron. Smaller is a proton. You go a bit larger, you have Earth. You go larger, you have a solar system. But everything is spherical, because when the two interact, always create the same strength in the same position. So what happens if you take this one as 3 parts of the 3 different fields? The stronger one, which is what we call G1, we call it principal matter, sits in one side. The weaker one sits together, and the weaker of the weaker stays together. So what happens when they come together? They interact. We know by law of physics, if you played enough with magnets when you were younger, you know the 2 similar magnets, similar poles, attract each other. And the similar poles, they repel each other. The attraction is called gravitation. And the repulsion is the sphere they produce to find a position with each other, is called magnetic sphere or magnetic field of it. And all the entities which have a spherical shape, which is literally the magnetic fields have managed to tail off to make a full circle, are possessing both magnetic and gravitation at the same time. This is what happens on Earth. On Earth we have magnetic field and gravitational field at the same time. what the entity can hold on to, we call it gravity, and what the entity can protect, we call it magnetosphere, or we call the atmosphere of the Earth. Proportionate, take it to a higher proportion or lower proportion. So, does not make any difference. You always stay the same. But you come to take the knowledge into the world of physics. There's a lot of talk in physics about anti-gravity. I always say in my talks, the minute anybody talks about anti-gravity, put a big cross on his name. It means he has not understood the concept of creation. We just told you 2 seconds ago that if you have two magnetic fields, two magnets which are similar, you find they don't come together. I usually show it in a very simple way. There is no anti-gravity. The scientists who talk about anti-gravity, they have not understood the position of anti-gravity comes from interaction of two similar magnetic fields position. So, in reality, where is the anti-gravity? It's the magnetic field which keeps the separation. And when it's similar, the attraction becomes the gravity. And as the two have to encircle, as the two have to encircle, you get a spherical shape. So this opens up a lot of opportunities for us because we have to understand, doesn't matter how we put any amount, they always find their position. These are all magnets in different quantity, in different shapes. But it doesn't matter what you do with them, they find their position. It's not anti-gravity. It's two similar poles which they keep their distance. Because you have to redefine the whole operation of magnetic field, and then the understanding becomes very similar, very easy. The North Pole, what we call, is where the fields come out. And where the South, we call it, is the fields go in. So we don't call it North and South. We call it entry and exit. And when you change it to entry and exit, the fields cannot go in when there is no room for them. That's why the fields separate. The magnets stay apart of the similar point because they're all trying to come out. So they need room to maneuver, to go out. That's why they repel each other. And where one can go into the other one, the magnets interact because they find a channel to flow, to make a full circle. So if you understand this position, then the whole world of creation opens up a new concept, new understanding, and in a way, what we call burning of the fuel, the way the new technology or a past technology 100 years has come into play, literally dies. It dies in one way, because now we understand a magnetic field is like everything else. In time, magnetic field leaks and join up other fields. So you have a strong source in the middle. What at the moment is become fashionable and antimatter. And then we call it dark matter, and then we call it matter. In fact, what is antimatter? We call it the principal matter. It's the star, it's the sun. And as the sun leaks its energy, its magnetic field out, in time of travel to get to another position, because the fields are of the same strength, there is less friction, there is less light, there is less interaction between the fields, you get no release of energy, no friction. So you get the feeling of darkness. And then when they're slow enough, they become tangible to us according to our own magnetic field strength of our human protein. So in that way, if you understand this, what we call the initial fundamental plasma or neutron, any plasma is a fundamental plasma. Because in time, as it moves, it releases its energy, it goes through a point that it does not have enough magnetic field to hold on to itself, to the total entity. So it splits. So we call it in a world of physics, decay. nuclear material decay. Uranium, plutonium does. The same thing happens with a neutron. It decays to electron and a proton. And as I showed you, it's the same cup. Depends how much is in which package. If you understand this, it becomes very easy to do the magics I do. You open up the plasma as you need, when you need, and you put it back together. So as the neutron divides, the ones which are split up, they get together. And at the same time, because the new entity, what we call electron, has got its own gravitational magnetic field, it has to create and find its position in respect to the bigger brother, what we call a proton. So in so many ways, they join up, they stay together. And then they find each other's position in a very, very simple way, where in reality, you can put as many magnets which have both, like Earth or whatever, next to each other. One needs to move. The other one dictates the position. If you understand this concept in its reality, you can apply it in medical application and do a lot of things with it. So, in a way, this is like your amino acid, a hydrogen, a nitrogen, oxygen, and a carbon. So, in so many ways, what you see the gentleman walking is understanding that somewhere in his life, some entity, some magnetic field, some energy interfered with the normal operation. If it's this normal operation, and I can do a very simple, get stressed, eat the wrong food, the position moves. This position gives you cancer. The position moves. The same amino acid can give you MS. What we learn is we reverse it. All it is, we just push it back where it goes back it was. And that's all it is. That's what the things we do is magic, and people don't understand. Because we've gone into the essence of understanding the position of electron and proton. It's the same with the body, it's the same with the galaxies. So when it comes to our work, we do not, in reality, if you look at this as the electron, especially colors shows different matter, principal matter or dark matter. The position they are in respect to each other, it finds if the electron goes back and forth. For the first time, we can actually what they call unpredictable, irregular pattern of the electron. You can say where the next position is. Now we understand the structure. It's the same thing as the way as the sun goes in its galaxy, and the same as the moon and the earth go around the sun. There is a pattern to it. It's us, we didn't know how this pattern is created. Now we understand it. So if you understand the simple basic of the physics, the rest of it is how you play with it. That's all it is. So in so many ways, if you look at the whole concept in a proper manner, the way it is in the universe, then you understand the simplicity of how things can happen. How things divide, how things attract. If you go a bit further, I'll show you something very interesting. This is what we chose I should say the designer, Mr. Dirk Lorentzens, who does most of the design for the books, chose with us the structure of an apple because we relate apple to Newton and to gravity. It brings a lot of things home in a very straight way. So if you look at it, you have different field strength. So in them interacting, they create gravity in respect to themselves. And in interacting with the other magnetic fields in their environment, allows us to have planets, moons, in the same position all the time, in the same place. So the main thing was for us, or for me, since I was a teenager, to understand what gravity is. I understood the concept. Now I understand it better. But 40 years ago, 30 years ago, I had a battle with my professor in university that I want to leave the nuclear industry because it was a lot of rubbish. He said, get your degree and then leave and then prove it's a rubbish. So I did what he said. To understand what gravity was, there was a lot of imagination going on. They I always say, if man would have discovered gravity and the magnetic field at the same time, we would not have been in the dogma we are in now, in our field of science. they would have understood gravity and magnetic field has the same source, the same material. It just depends. Gravity comes if there are dissimilar mag fields, which they attract, and if they are similar, they repel, and they make a sphere of themselves. So I had to go to understand something which was real enough, and I could collect data. And the simplicity of it was, I started looking at the structure, inner structure of the Earth. And in time, they told us there's a solid core in the center, and then there was a liquid, and there was a convection theory creating magnetic field, and the rotation creating the, what do you call it, the movement of electrons, or whatever they talk about, in conjunction with the rotation of solid core, inner core, creates the magnetic field of the Earth. There were two questions for me which made a lot of rubbish out of this explanation. Sun doesn't have a center core, solid center core. How come it's got such a big gravitational fields and magnetic fields? Other entities, gaseous planets, don't have a solid core, but how come they have such a huge gravitational field? So gravity had nothing to do with the rotation of the solid core inside. It had explanation to it. So in so many ways, I start looking. In time, we found out, or I've discovered, that the inner core of the Earth has to have two magnetic fields, not one, because it had a gravity and a magnetic field, what we call magnetosphere, together. So in so many ways, as I was looking, and I wrote papers and books about it, or papers about it years ago, other scientists from data from the earthquakes around the world in the past 30 years, 35 years, they came up with the same conclusion as me, that the inner solid core of the Earth cannot be empty, because there's got to be another magnetic field. So the geophysicists call it a geonuclear reactor inside this metal. Then, for the first time about 10 years ago, as physicists, geophysicists, geonuclear physicists, we could explain where the heat is coming from. The heat in the center of the Earth is coming from. So it was an explanation where we said that the magnetic field inside, or the inner core inside, is hollow, but it's not hollow, it's got materials. Geonuclear physicists say that during the time when the Earth was created, the heavier material like uranium went in the middle, and they got stuck in there, and as they are doing their nuclear decay, what we call nuclear power stations, which we run today, the heat comes out, allows the convection theory to have a principle. This had two flows with it, two clear flows with it. First of all, where does the rotation come from? You need to have if you have a heat, where does the rotation of the Earth come from, or any other planet? Secondly, if there was plutonium and uranium, as these geonuclear physicists talk about, Earth has been going on for 5 billion years. So by law of physics, which I was taught as a nuclear physicist, they have decayed. They have decayed to the fundamental element, to neutron, to electron, to protons, to plasma. So therefore, for the first time, I could say the inside the inner core, solid core, what we see, there was a plasma mixture and other materials. I called it the Caroline core. This new core, the inner core, which now we have a physical data about it, you can go on the internet and just put, they call it inner core. Inner core doesn't make any sense, but because I discovered it myself years before, I called it the Caroline core, which is the name of my wife. It was easy. Then it was easy to remember. And that's why it stays at Caroline core. In a lot of scientific books I've read recently, some scientific papers, they refer to it as a Caroline core as well. So this Caroline core explains a mixture of nuclear material, a mixture of plasma, a mixture of nanomaterial, and a mixture of very large quantity of magnetic fields, which, when two magnetic fields in two different layers, strength or compression, interact, the stronger one takes over, and they put what we call magnetic field force, and that magnetic field force dictates the speed of the rotation. So two fields on either side of the solid core, now we understand how it dictates the position and rotation, the speed of rotation of the Earth. So two questions for me were answered. Now, this is a picture from NASA. they show gravitational field of the Earth. In this gravitational, can you stop, please? In this gravitational field, Earth does not have a constant, the same gravitational field. Earth has a different gravitational field at different point, depending on the material, where they are within the inner core and what the strength is interacting where. So the next step for me was, as you see the next picture, Earth has no wings, there is no tanking, nobody comes and tanks and fuels the Earth, but the Earth has been going for 5 billion, and it'll go for another 5 billion. But now we understood the structure of the neutron, we understood the structure of the rotation of the material. For me, as a physicist, was creating a system which can replicate the same natural process. So what happened 20, 30 years ago, I started developing the first type of new nuclear reactors the way I could understand it. There are drawings of this. When I look at them now, it's funny, but it shows the process of my thinking changing over years. So in understanding the creation of carbine core and the creation of what we know the outer core, two magnetic field area needed to create gravity and magnetic field. So by early 2000, I knew I cracked. I knew how to create gravity. What they say, gravity is not impossible. I knew how it's done. Now it was a matter of building a system to do it. So in early 2000, I stopped my business, which was supporting my research for years, and I devoted my life to creating the first gravitational and magnetic field system like Earth. And at the moment, we are highly advanced. We understand it. I built the first copies in Belgium. The second cycle generation were created in Belgium again. And we could see internal lift, what we call anti-gravity internally, and then externally. And then in 2008, with the help of a government, we built the first magnetic gravitational system. And now we've gone totally in a what we call vertical move. We can lift as many amount, and we can lift and shift as we like. There was process with understanding how you can position yourself. So what we did, we built a reactor. We have several of these. We create a plasma magnetic field in one area, and we create magnetic field and plasma in the other area. And what does this do? It allows us to position ourselves in respect to Earth magnetic field and gravitational field. I do the same thing when I help people to walk. As I showed you, I understand the motion and the movement and how they are positioned. This is what people don't understand how simple it is, and you don't need to burn any fuel, is that if this is the sun, or let's say if this is the moon, and I'm here, I don't need to burn any fuel. If I create the right environment, magnetic plasma field, I get pulled into it. I don't need rocket propulsion. Rocket propulsion is the game of NASA. It's well shelved. They know it. So when we create and we can control the strength of magnetic field, gravitational fields, we dictate our position in respect to the Earth. We can do the same with a smaller material in a different way. I don't like to be pinched. It pinches. We do the same thing in a different way. This goes back to Mr. Hattinga said at the beginning. I went with the box and they tried it. We stood there, and to him it was important to see energy, something moving, some electricity to be generated. But to me was for him to see how I create, I can generate, I can absorb, I can prove my concept of gravitational positioning as an attraction in a matter entity. What does this mean? This means that I can create, I can absorb, I can position gases in the environment within the structure of my system that they can become solid. In the test we done with them, they were looking for energy, and I wanted a separate independent witness to see I can create solid material, solid gases. He never realized it, but I enjoyed what I saw in there. And in the lab, we showed, if you go in the picture of one of our books, I think it's book number 2, we show a bottle with the material, fuzzy material at the bottom, which is a CO2. We took this new material to University of Ghent. They did independent investigation on confirming, yes, we have managed to create solid out of gas at room temperature, which is unknown up to now. What I've done, because this is what we agreed with the elector to show, you are literally witnessing the same process here. In the same process here, we put a light, LD light. This is not to show you can generate energy. This is to show that in the process, while you are generating solid matter out of gases, you generate energy too. It has a huge application and implication in the world of science. It has a huge implication in understanding how things work in the universe. It's for the first time we know how our own being is created on this planet. It's the first time we understand how when magnetic fields position themselves according to the environment, lead to creation of life. Life is not exclusively of the Earth, because if you put the right fields together, life can be anywhere. But the whole concept was how we can produce matter out of gases. So we took the material, this is part of the material you will see, into University of Ghent. This is a CO2. Later on, I will let you to play with it. We'll send it around, you can have a look at it. When you change the CO2, when you absorb CO2 from the environment and you put it through the right condition of gravitational magnetic field, which is actually done through these very simple system here, very, very fine wires which can replicate the condition of the internal structure of the Earth to create life, then you understand what has been missing, a question mark in the world of science is answered. And that's what is, and the simplicity of it is that how we become to be tangible and solid. If you create the right condition, you can have solid matter anywhere in the universe and any temperature and any pressure. And that's what we do. So in reality, what the other people are always looking for energy, I look for an answer in creation. How I can use it in the universe. If you think this is a bit out of order and it's imaginary, always say you have never seen a gases in a solid state. Simplest thing is just go like this, just pinch yourself. Just push 2 fingers with your own flesh. What do you feel? Amino acid, 4 gases. How come you are solid? How come your body or our entities become to be solid at room temperature, and then we say it's impossible because we've been forced by peer reviewing to be impossible because they never understood it themselves. So in the process, we can create, I did that in September 2008. We create protein, fresh protein, as much as we like in the lab, where we could extract the nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen, which is in the air, in the right combination, produce as much protein as we like. This is what the plants do. This is what the animals do. This is how our body changes food energy into solid matter as our own flesh. So the next step was how we can use this in different aspects of the technology. And in the same discussion was suggestion of Mr. Hettinga, because we have a very good relationship with Mr. Hettinga, was that make me a torch which works with water. Then we answer the energy problem. Am I correct? So, more or less. So I went home and I thought, I don't need water. I can do it because I understand the structure of gravitational magnetic pull. I can do it out of fresh air. So a few months later, we built his idea of a torch with water, but torch without any water. Torch in the universe, how to convert energy into electronics or electric current. And in a simple way, we do not need any more water. This torch has been going on nearly for 2 years plus. And for us to make sure scientifically we are correct, we sent an email every day to the other member of the Keshe Foundation. It's still burning. It's still enlightened. It's not a short term. But in reality, what you see as a light in this is part of your own individual energies, which is emanated. Once you've been in this room, you release fields. And this material, which is developed, can absorb it and change it to electronics and electric currents. And if you can take it a step further, create a condition for it, and we haven't done one. We got quite a few. You can always check. It's very easy. It's the same process. It's very easy to be done because you can repeat the same process over and over again. And if you can change the magnetic field or the field strength of the light, it's very easy to understand. You can create your own food in the space. Don't forget Keshe Foundation is a space technology development only. That's why you don't see our discoveries. We don't show them outside. Because our target is a space, and very soon we'll show you more things that you haven't seen. I can show you something very simple, how most probably what you've just been since in this room, you've been breathing out as CO2, is already a solid matter somewhere here. It's very simple. This was a clear water, and gradually, if you leave it in time, it settles down and becomes CO2 in solid. And that's what we took to the University of Ghent in Belgium. And they did the independent investigation on it. And we published a paper in 2009 and in the book early this year, how to and how materials are created in a simple way. But this is a matter of understanding plasma, understanding energy. So in so many ways, we went further. You can take a picture because it's easier to see it. We went a step further in finding out how you can make minute energy, because big energies are not useful in the space. You want little ones that you can control. So in so many ways, if you, I can put it that way, you can record it. People look for milliwatts and megawatts. I look for little watts, because this is what matters. So if you can absorb in little energies, you simply come to this empty box of universe. That's all it is. This is what I call the empty box of universe, but you have to know where to look for it and what to look for. I have said a lot of times in the past that if the scientists could understand what I release, we would have had no more wars. But at the moment, there's too much intention and too much impression of building things, big things, where we are missing the little things, which is the cornerstones of our creation. So, in so many ways, you've seen how the small development of the energy and matter and energy and one conversation to another with a little newspaper called Elector has led to discoveries and furthermore. And that's one of the reasons we keep a very good relationship with Mr. Hettinger, because it's a mutual respect. It's people who are open to new technologies and allow the new generations to come into understanding more of the reality. In so many ways, in a space, we can't have energy directed to us. We have to look in every direction to get as much as we can, when we can, that we have enough all the time. So if you look at this one, this is a very sophisticated but a simple demonstration of it, because it leaks. We kept it in the plastic. So what happens is the three-dimensional. This is the first time we ever shown this. It was agreed with Mr. Hettinger, we'll show this one. It's the first time you will see this. It's a three-dimensional solar system, you call it. You can pick up fields from anywhere and add it up to what you need. Kilowatts, megawatts, milliamps, millivolts. So in a space, I want to be able to absorb enough energy from every direction, whatever is available. And then, again, we can put meters on this. You see, very small. The problem is, as I said, people look for big quantities. I look for as little as possible. If I can find the right combination, if you can sit in the right place, you should be able to. And funny enough, if you see there is a small amount, very, very little. I don't look for megawatts. Megawatts are not needed. In the world of creation, megawatts are useless. So you reproduce very little, but you add the littles together. And then the game changes. And then if you understood the same process, we go to understanding how to create new materials, because now we know how to generate and create materials out of space when we need it. Keshe Foundation is a space technology base, which means when I go to space, I want no doctors. I don't need no pharmaceutical. I cannot come back to Earth and every time take paracetamols all the time. There'll be more of those in the load than food. There'll be more doctors on board than passengers. And at the same time, when my doctors have a coma, when my doctors have a heart attack, I cannot go to another passenger and say, can I have your heart for my doctor? So we had to find a total solution for everything. And this process goes the same. This, what you see on the left-hand side, what we call Keshe reactor, it has a lot of meaning for us because it replicates exact copy of what the creation is. We create a dynamic structure, be it in a nano state, which is a single atom state, or be it in a huge size reactors, which allows us to produce gravitational magnetic fields. What you see here is not far from reality. There is a little bit of color change because as we produce different magnetic gravitational fields, as they have different colors, they create different structure color field around them. So when we run our reactors, we see different colors. In fact, most of the time, from the time we run reactors for a space technology for lift, you see colors which expand. It comes out. In the new book, we tried to find a new colors, and by accident in the production of the books came exactly what we wanted. We introduced new colors which was unknown because we don't work with the imaginary speed of sound. We don't work with the imaginary speed of light. When you pass the speed of light, you get a spectrum of closeness, you get a spectrum of the fields which they slow down in different length. So you see color spectrum. You don't see purple, you don't see pink. It's everything together. And this reactor was one of the first ones, second ones tried, and it worked. We could see the internal lift. And if you go one more, what we do in this reactor is exactly what I explained there. We open the plasma. We go back to the original shape. When you open the plasma, you have the center, which is the strongest one, which is what we call the sun. Then you have the weaker fields, which are in transition till they get to their destination. And then, when it becomes to a point that the field changes to tangible entity to our amino acid magnetic gravitational field, then becomes tangible physical to us. What does this mean? This means if in our amino acid we had potassium, we will have totally different color blood. And we will see matter in a different strength length. Totally, because the magnetic field and gravitational field of that material is different than what we have. So it has a different positioning. So we see different field strength. But in our reactors, as you see here, go back please, go back please. As you see here, we don't, now we understand the structure of the little glass of cup and a big glass of water. We don't go into what they call fusion. Fusion always, it happens in the universe. But fusion, the way the present nuclear industry is following, as I always say, it's in my book somewhere, it's a dream which will never come true. Why? The present nuclear industry, as a nuclear physicist, which I objected to it from the first week I was in university, I told my professor, I don't agree with this. He said, you're right, but we can't do anything about it, is tokamak has become a big talk. What is a tokamak? Now there's a new version going to be built in south of France. What do the scientists say? They take the plasma of a proton, they squeeze it through strong magnetic fields, increases the speed, and they crush it together, and they hope they fuse. When it's open and softer, it's much easier to do it. Why do you crush it with, pressurize it with magnetic field and now high speed it? The reason they make this stupid mistake, and I've said that to the head of nuclear atomic energy authorities of Belgium before in our meeting, that it's very simple. Because they don't understand what is the structure of the plasma. What they call a Coulomb barrier, what they try to get through, is the magnetosphere. It's literally the sphere, magnetic sphere of the proton. It's exactly like when we try to get a shuttle through the Earth. If you go in the wrong angle, you burn out. We lost Columbia. That's why American shuttle system is shelved, because they could not get things right every time they came back in. And they had to build what are called popcorn shields. They call it heat shield tiles. Because if they could understand how this thing is, and the nuclear physicists could explain to them we are making a mistake, none of these would have happened. We can go as many times as you like, in and out of atmosphere, as fast as we like. We don't need this ridiculous rotating slingshot effect to get to the point. All you need to do, if you create the right field in the right position, there we are. Goes back to the same point. What happens if the nuclear physicists in fusion technology understand that it's easier to make an environment which is similar to the internal magnetic field of the plasma, be it proton or electron, the plasma opens up because it's comfortable. There's no reaction, there is no interaction. You reduce what is a Coulomb barrier. Then you can fuse and create as much new material as you like. Fusion technology, the way we do it now, we produce, I have produced materials which astonished some scientists who have actually physically tested it. So, in a way, what we call dilution technology is to open the plasma. And then when you open the plasma, it's an amazing environment. We see it in so many effects. In a way, you can choose what you like from this soup. You want the star, you take the star. You want the moon, you take the moon. So that's what we call plasma technology. That's what Keshe Foundation is based on, worked on. I want to lift a few ton, I go for the star. I want to lift a few grams, I go for the moon. But knowing where the moon sits and how it will interact if you remove it. That's one of the reasons. And I said this to one of the Atomic Energy Authority inspectors yesterday in Belgium. You have not come to understand what I do, because I do create nuclear material at any strength at the point of need where I need it. Because I open the plasma, as it reduces in strength, I can take a gamma ray, I can get an X-ray, I can get an over gamma rays. There are radiations which is unknown to man and we see it all the time in our operation. I can take alpha ray, I can take ultraviolet as I need it. One of the interesting is, world of medicine has not understood what ultraviolet rays do in creation of life. If they understand the food production we have, which is a problem for us, we won't be there. Because if the people could understand the structure of the ultraviolet within the structure of the plasma, you can create food anywhere in the universe. In a way, food is what magnetic field you need at the point of demand. It's not a cow, it's not a cauliflower. Yeah? But it's the energy which gives you. This is one of the problems we have at the moment in the world of science or in the world of medicine or in the world of food, is they don't understand that the magnetic field of the sun gets to the layer, top layer, it breaks down to a smaller, weaker, then it becomes part of a plant as you absorb to it or by it and or by animal. Then as human being or other beings, we eat it, and then it goes in our digestive system to break it up back to how it came to the earth. This is where the problem is. The digestion system we have is undoing what the animals have done. At the same time, understanding the structure of plasma dilution, we can create any condition that the same material changes its properties at any time, anywhere in the universe. So if you want aluminium to build a structure, you absorb the energy, you convert it, you make material for it. If you want protein for food, you do the same thing, but this time in a smaller combination. In fact, it's in the book somewhere, an atom of hydrogen or a plasma of a hydrogen or proton, whatever you call it, neutron, has been on Earth for billions of years, from the beginning of the time of the Earth. And they say it's going to go another few billion years. So there is enough energy hidden within one plasma for this plasma to show its existence for 10, 20 billion years. So if you can open it up and you go to its sun, you can pick up little bits and little bits what you need to produce enough food to feed a man for a lifetime from one plasma. It's all knowing how much of it you want. It's knowing where you want to take, how much you want to take. So energy becomes free. They say, I create free energy. No. I know how to go and pinch a little bit. You don't know, you don't understand, and look, magician. That's all it is. We go to the bigger sense, open up the plasma, take what we need at the point of need, and take the amount we need, and you can create and produce machinery which select a specific portion equal to the amount of one electron. So in a way, one proton can make billions and billions and billions of electrons, and it can light the whole city of Eindhoven for millions of years. But we are not ready to see the truth. And there are too many commercial pressures to keep it the way it is. But sooner or later, as I say, if you go on high streets and highways in Belgium, we used to have lights on the highways till 12 o'clock at night. Now they put a little switch and a curtain, and there was no more light. It means we can't afford paying anymore. Where in fact, if you would follow the same structure, you can light the whole universe with a few atoms. And that's what we do, because we start opening the plasma, and the plasma has a star of its own, and there is enough energy to last for 10 billion years and more after the Earth is exploded. So you break into it, you open up what you need. It brings us back, go ahead. It brings us back to exactly what we call gravitational magnetic positioning. This is what we call, you do not need rockets with billions of tons of fuel to position yourself in respect to Earth. You open the plasma, you go to another 5 million years of energy fields left in it. You allow two plasmas in the right order to interact. Voila, you have a new entity. You call it a spaceship, you call it UFO. We call it gravitational magnetic fields, or what we call it maglev systems. And we call these motions because they are the essence of man. There are a lot of forces to stop this technology to come in the market, because multinationals, multimillionaires would like to still sell fuel to get you on a jetliner. It's good for them. But on the other hand, we have put enough information and pattern outside that you can build one of these, what we call UFOs, yourself. There is no position to stop us. And the authorities know this very well now. What you call UFOs, a light, bright light in the sky, is In fact, interaction of the magnetic field of your system, which creates gravity and magnetic field, with a gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, or anywhere in the universe. If your magnetic field can pass the boundary of your structure, that magnetic field will interact with the magnetic field of its environment. If it's equal or enough in the strength, there is no interaction, there is no friction, it's of the same, what they call the dark matter, dark energy. But if it's a difference, the interaction leaves some friction, some residual, which that emanates itself as light. And if this is a bit too far-fetched for you, in a simple way, you wake up every morning is a morning. Why? Because the magnetic and gravitational field of the sun, in interacting with gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, creates a residual magnetic field which becomes our daily light. We don't have light or daytime on the back of the Earth where there is no interaction with the magnetic field of the sun and gravitational field of the sun. So if it's a bit far-fetched, it's a reality which I see every time I switch a reactor on the motion and movement. So what it is, our reactor wants, as long as the field is inside, when you look at the inside, you see light. It's very bright. It's a special color. And when you change the strength, it comes beyond the boundary. Its magnetic and gravitational field will interact with the Earth. You see a friction, you see a shimmer, and if you strengthen enough, you see a bright light. As I always say in my talks, in the future, at the present, we see jetliner trailers in the sky. In the future, we'll see bright lights in the sky. And at the time when they are there, when they move, it finishes because they have to move to the next position. We were supposed to show this bright light in the sky about 2 years ago. We were blocked. And in the recent past, the government has announced, which we passed with transfer of knowledge to them, they have a spaceship technology. Keshe Foundation does the same thing. So, in fact, what we've done, we have opened the space technology with all its material, food, energy, medicine, and materials that you need to take. So, in reality, what Newton has started, we have brought it to a very nice closure. In a way now, we know what Newton discovered, how to control it and how to make it. But you cannot have magnetic field without the gravity and be able to move, and you cannot have gravity without magnetic fields. So in being able to do the two, we have achieved and we reached where we are. We can show you a lot of things, but there are a lot of restrictions. In a way, this has taken Mr. Lorenz a long time to create. This is how you will travel in the future. And the other thing is, it's a good news to a lot of you who've got a little bit of money you want to spend, is that you do not need to go through the training of astronauts like the Americans do, because the way you get on a jetliner, some people just came from Bali. Yeah, they were not trained to get on a plane. You will be astronauts to Moon, to Mars, anywhere within a few minutes. Because in these structures, because we create gravitational magnetic fields, we have tested them, we know within certain time, certain distance, you always have 1G. 1G is a property of a balanced magnetosphere. And that's what we are used to live and survive in. So, in so many ways, what you see astronauts, all this clothing, this is the NASA's game. This is how man was going through progress of understanding. We don't ridicule NASA or Russian Space Agency. It's just that we've gone to the next step. The way we started with the donkey and we found the cartwheel, and then we went to the next stage of cars and jets. Now we understand by opening the plasma the reality how motion and creation of the energy is in the universe. So, in a way, your travel to the moon will be seconds rather than 4 hours, and in the future, very, very near future, you can cross solar systems in minutes, because all you do, you create magnetic gravitational field of the destination, and all it does, it absorbs you. mc squared becomes totally meaningless. Because the energy is external, not internal. So you get absorbed by or pulled by the opposite attraction force. This is exactly what, if you look, we're not talking rubbish. Now we understand the physics. You have the Earth and our craft. You have a proton and electron. You have a sun and the Earth. And you have Jupiter and Ganymede. Ganymede is exactly one of the only planets we know, only moons we know, with both a structure, gravity and magnetic field, within another structure of gravity and magnetic field in the universe. So it's the repeat of now understanding. They always say, we followed the birds, we made the aircrafts. Now we follow the structure of the universe. And that's why it's a mental shift to understand how easy it is. Not because they force us to be, because this is exactly how things are in the universe. If you can go on the next one, please. Go to the next one. Yeah, carry on. This we showed you as new material, as a CO2, as new materials, as what we call diamond structure. These materials are bringing into play new games. These are materials we didn't know. When we, can we have the next one, please? When we took our material to University of Ghent, the professors, we left the material with them, and they did the Raman spectroscopy and infrared spectroscopy, and they immediately came to understand this is a new material we never knew, because it has a property of some 20, 30 different superconductors. In one test, we saw, I think, about 14 combinations of different material, but it doesn't exist. So, but because it's tangible, it's physical, we have to accept it, and it has a lot of application, because now understanding this structure, we can make computers which are non-dimensional. At the same time, they can work over the speed of light, because you can structure it. You can come to a new material structure. What has been the problem in the world of science is the man never, up to now, understood the fourth state of the matter. At the present, they call the fourth state of matter plasma, but it's not in reality. That's the fifth state of matter, individuality. The fourth state of matter is what we call GANs. Gases are the state of nano-solid state material, is what you see in those tubes. This is CO2 at room temperature in the solid state. This is the same thing. I have it somewhere here. This is a CO2 in the powder shape at room temperature. That's all it is. Why? Why is this the fourth state of matter? Because up to now we considered three states of matter as a solid, then as a liquid when you increase the temperature or pressure, and then it becomes a gas when it became a bit hotter. But now we understand the structure of the plasma, that it needs to be gravitational magnetic field. If we can change or affect the internal magnetic field structure of the material itself is plasma, the plasma can become a gas or a liquid or a solid anywhere in the universe. So the real fourth state of matter is what we call GANs. In English, they call it organs. And now, as a joke, we say if you cross the or, because we know there is no or into it, we know it for certainty, we call it GANs. So in reality, the fourth state of matter has to be the matter itself in respect to its internal interaction gravitational magnetic field. If you can change it and you can squeeze it through the right magnetic gravitational gap, becomes this machine. This machine creates that condition. The seas of the earth created that condition billions of years when life, the basic of life, was created. Because that magnetic gravitational field gap was there, was created in deep pressures of the earth that the gases could convert. And at the same time, create an interaction that they could interact and communicate, become intelligence, and they could hold on to their cell life. So in reality, the new materials which we will create for our future is not to be gold and diamonds or whatever else. It will be what magnetic gravitational fields we can change to get what we need at what strength. So in so many ways, why I created this material. This material is very important. This is a CO2. As I said, this is part of the breathing of your own CO2. You've been breathing, and I've been collecting. In the space, you'll still be breathing. But I can't go and get a cow. You have a digestion system. If I don't feed you, if I don't put something in your stomach, you have internal bleeding. So you breathe, you give me CO2, I make it to a solid, I make it the color of beef for you. So you have beef. This is what the next step is, and this is what we are doing some trials now in near Ghent. So we're trying to find a solution to become independent, that we don't have to come back to Earth for supply. And we are very good at it, and we are too far in it. But in reality, one of the reasons we don't let people touch this, because we do not know what are the side effects of this material to us. Because when I touch it, I taste it. It's instantaneous. By taste, I can see if it's a methane gas or if it's a CO2. And it's very easy. This is not what I say. This is what the scientists, professors at Ghent University tell you. This is methane, CH4. This is more or less in a solid state. We do not know. It's very much like nanomaterials. We do not know what they're going to do to us. But most probably, if we can structure in the right way, they will be the food of the future. But in so many ways, it goes back to how little we know and how we are proud of calling ourselves professors and doctors and a senior race without actually knowing a very little about what our life is about. And this is what has to change, that we become very much aware of the state of matter in our lives and in our technology. And then it's very easy to go from the fifth state, which is a plasma, to a gas or to a liquid. So in a way, in the future, in the space, you are the provider of your own food. Because I give you what you need as a light and energy, you convert it to a solid, I feed you the solid. And if you're clever enough in time, you can change the solid into the materials you need. So if we go one step further, this picture, I think Mr. Hettinga knows. This was taken in the laboratory of the elector in the basement. And this is exactly when we empty these containers, we get a large quantity of CO2. And then you can do whatever you like with it. You can absorb it. This has a lot of application. This is what happened when we offered our technology to the Japanese government when the Japanese disaster happened. Because now we have the knowledge to absorb radiation from the environment. This is what this machine does. This is exactly what it is. I offered the same to the Japanese. We have a technology with our dynamic systems to be able to retract or absorb the radiations which are harmful to human body. All they had to accept was to put a system in the center of the reactor and try to go for a spectrum of attraction or retraction. So in so many ways, a little knowledge is expanding, and funny enough, a lot of people who understand it are following it. And I've heard very recently that a lot of scientists in NASA are objecting to propulsion, and they do not want to work the way NASA is doing its job with the propulsion, because they've seen what we do. And very soon, I assure you, very soon, some of the top astronauts in NASA will be in the League of the Keshe Foundation, because they see it as a waste of time what they're doing there. We didn't approach them, they approached us. We don't approach government, they approach us, because our knowledge belongs to you and to the nations, not to us, not to foundation. And I have structured in a way that in a very short time, all of you will have access to the whole knowledge, to the whole package. What you do with it is your right. What you do with it is your pitfall and your destiny. In so many ways, none of you should be suffering from cold in the depth of winter, and none of you should suffer with a hunger. It should be the same for the black, white, yellow, any racial or color race. In so many ways, we show very little light. But that blue light is the essence of your survival in space, in time. If you show me the next video, this is a nostalgic photograph with Mr. Hatinga in the basement of, what do you call it, Elector? Yeah, the castle they live in. And you see the same system. It's the same thing. It's the same apparatus we keep on using, because these materials never die. They keep on. You can use them for centuries, for decades, because you can allow the whole thing goes. But the interesting thing is enough that a lot of people don't know. When we find the right people who are impartial and prepared to test our technology independently, like Elector, we give them the freedom. They can do whatever they like, and they can see the operation and how things are. Can we go to the next one? This is the same machine, the same setup, running a motor from a computer, cooling system of a computer. So it's not just a little light. You can run anything you like. It's a load bearing. And the good thing with it is, if you understood the structure, you take what you need from the plasma. You don't need circuitry for these things. As you need, it loads it up. So you put 2 lights, still it stays 2. You put 3, it stays 3. You don't get a drop. It just takes from the environment what it needs to support what it needs to enlight or to lighten up. In so many ways, we put this picture out about 2 years ago. Nobody understood. This is the same, and that's the torch. Why we did that? What was the reason to put this in this way? Because when materials change from a gas into a solid, what we call a GANS, they release energy. And for the first time, we understand how our body heating itself. What we eat in radiation, which changes into fields of the right strength, when it converts to flash our body, it releases its temperature, 37 degrees. So in many simple ways, scientifically, we can say how energy in our body created. And in so many ways, you can go to the next step of life, and this is the simplicity of it. At the moment, present technology looks at the energy production in a very materialistic way. You have to burn to create energy. It's exactly how we do in our body. We burn, we try to dissolve the matter. So what we do, at the present time, we use any of the fuels, gas, nuclear, whatever, just to create a steam, to create energy as a steam, to run a turbine, to literally run a rotary magnet at the end, what we call a rotor. Somebody's sitting here laughing at me. These are the free energy guys. They know what we're talking about. So, in reality, this is what the structure is at the moment. All that burning, all that pollution is to run a turbine, to run a rotor. But I just showed you in a very simple way how any entity like Earth has a dynamic magnetic field. We call it atmosphere, our atmosphere. So as we have understood the concept of the energy or concept of rotating magnetic field, dynamic magnetic field, I don't need any of those. I can create the same structure as Earth using a plasma, putting it inside a magnetic coil, and what do you get? A generator. But even this generator, can you go to the next one, please? Even the next one, this is what it is. This is the magnetic field of the Earth. If you go to the next picture, I think it carries the communication. We put the Earth inside the coil. That's all it is. We understood the structure of why things are dynamic, magnetic fields are dynamic, so we change it. So this is what you get. And this is what we call cash generator. This is what you are paying 5,000 euro till last night and 20,000 euro from tomorrow. The PDF will go 5. We increase our 3 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt to 50,000 euro. You're paying for it because it's simple, but on the other hand, it has to finance the other side of the development and educating and feeding people. So, in fact, don't go anywhere. Stay there, stay there, stay there. We were supposed to show you the generator today, but through unforeseen circumstances by the authorities, a lot of things changed. So we tried to make the best of the worst. But in so many ways, your generator you're paying for is sitting here. No, no pictures, please. So in reality, the coils which you were looking for, what the Earth is sitting within this structure. Your generators can be produced within the next 24 hours. Pardon? Oh, had a quick look. So we are not talking about something which fantasize. These systems have been built and has been tested. It's just a matter of how the governments and authorities are real to face it, to take it to the next step. So what we call a 3 kilowatt generator can be supplied what you paid for within a few days. The governments, the authorities, everything has been set up to do it. But it's what your nations, your governments accept to do it. It only weighs about 7 kilo. And this system can supply you for 30, 40, 50 years. And the only cost of running less than a cent. What would you like? Which plasma do you want me to open? Are there 1 million years left or 1 billion years left? You never understood the concept. There is no free energy. It's where to go to open the plasma. You want a megawatt? You go. There is no fusion. There is no fission. I've heard of people sending me, Mr. So-and-so has sold a 1 megawatt unit. 29th of October. I don't care. I'm not in a power production on the Earth level. I'm after power production into space technology. And that's all it is. And that's how I work. In reality, we are self-sufficient. We are financially self-sufficient. We don't need to listen to no government. But we collaborate with every government. In a way, you would have seen a full operation of 3 kilowatts today. But through circumstances which was passed by government, they made sure you don't see it today. I had a knock on the door. I had a helicopter over the house at 10 o'clock yesterday. You know we reported the helicopter before. Military helicopter, after 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door with 2 police officers and 2 atomic energy authorities because they want to make sure you don't see. This is the position it is. We asked the authorities, we work with the authorities, we asked the authorities to come and check because we set a new lab up. And they chose their time that you don't see it. We are not fooled. But on the other hand, I have respect for every authority. They have to make sure things are in order. Amongst your audience, there are military and there are defense and there are what you call police force people. You do not know. They have to be in these presentations. We ask them to come because our knowledge is their knowledge. And we use it peacefully with them for everything else. So we bring our knowledge in, we share it with you, and we allow everybody to have the same access. We work with authorities, we work with the police force, because we need their protection as much as they need us to do the thing the right way. Because I can abuse my knowledge in a very, very rapid way. But we don't use it, we don't abuse it. Some people left the room. I think you got the message. Next one. In the way it brings us back to the end of our conversation and presentation. In understanding the simple structure of the magnetic and gravitational fields has allowed us to develop different things. And as I always say, if you take the steps of knowledge from now on from what we learn, we haven't even stood up to walk yet. And this building has 1,000 steps. It's depending on the next generation and other people who see the wisdom in their own way to take this to the further and next step. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
I know some guys on the world that use solid state with magnets, and the right kind of winding, so they can pull electricity out of it. In your systems, is it like that? Do you use magnets, permanent magnets?
No, we don't use permanent. We use permanent magnets to hold the plasma, but we don't use the magnets. We open the plasma. Plasma has a habit of turning back itself and controlling itself. So in so many ways, if you read my second book, it's called The Structure of Light, it shows that matter, to become matter, needs to become spherical to turn itself. But when the matter wants to go from one position to another, to be spherical and go forward, it loses a lot of its field to this environment. So what it does, it narrows itself. It becomes what we call light. That's why in the structure of the book, structure of light, I call light is a plasma. It's not an energy. So you can turn a plasma and use it. I don't use magnets for pulling things out. Thank you very much. Yes? Far back. Yes, yes, you stand up.
If I open a plasma here and I open a plasma there, then it's the same kind of plasma.
Not really. Even though they are about the same, it's like saying all the solar systems are the same. Different plasmas, even though they are protein, or proton I should say, yeah, are different field strength in them. They're not all the same.
So they won't attract each other?
If you create the right condition, there's some of the fields they will do attract, and they make a new entity. That's what we call our fusion, plasma fusion.
But if the cars have the same structure, they will go to each other?
No, but because the magnetic field and gravitation stays within the reactor itself, within the car. Doesn't go outside it. Yeah? Yes?
Doesn't mean that there is life everywhere in the universe?
Of course it is. That's what I said. It's not exclusively. As long as you can have a very simple process, as long as you can have plasma, and then becomes an atom, and then when you can get the molecules, and you can have 4 combinations of molecules together, that they can create a field balance or gravitational magnetic field balance, that gives the intelligence. So intelligence is not exclusive of man, and life is not exclusive of the Earth. It's just that we thought Earth was the center of the universe. Now we've got to realize there are other brothers who live along somewhere else. It's just hard to communicate with them. Yes?
The electricity of your home is not very healthy to people, to mankind. How is it after you have installed the Keshe generator?
This is still the same. This field, it has to go somewhere. This is still flow of electrons. It's still the same. It doesn't change. All it is, the generator can be in the initial stages of the pattern, when we have it, that you bury these reactors in a concrete block. But now, since we put the pattern in, we've gone further step forward in our understanding. Because we use a plasma, you don't need to bury it. You can literally sit on as a chair in the house. Nobody knows. Yes?
If I may ask, what's your biggest problem in revealing the ways of how the technique goes?
I don't have a problem. I have patterns, if you understand it.
Wait a minute, because we also work in a community of people who like to develop free energy, in the way you would want to call it. And as soon as we discover anything, we directly put it on the internet so everybody can rebuild it, and so we share the knowledge. And what I would like to know from you, what's the principal way in which it's constructed, what the technique is. So if you have it patented, so there's no worry for you to put people...
I don't have a worry. I don't have a worry. The thing is, we put patents out, we put books out. We have put a lot of publication out. The biggest worry at the moment is sits in the outside world, not with us. How they can control financial interest. And I've written my books and papers. If you read my books, understand the way I've written and not the way you've been taught and you want to think, you can make one of these reactors and go to moon tomorrow morning. It's well hidden. It's a Coca-Cola recipe, we call it. But you have to understand what is in the recipe. And it's on the internet. You just go now. We actually put 2 patents. There are other patents which are sitting in the European patent that cannot be published because of their sensitivity. Yes? There's a gentleman here with a question. Yes?
Just one question for you. That might be a bit personal, so if you do not want to answer,
No problem.
do you personally feel like you are changing the world?
Not really. I'm a scientist. You take what you like. It's too big for a man to say, I changed the world. I set a pattern in my own technology. Who follows it is the same.
Would you be offended if we said you changed the world?
No, there's a difference changing the world. It's our world, and there's a bigger world than us. Individuality doesn't exist. It's the collective. It's the same. If you notice in the first 2 rows of front, there are people who've been working a lot with Keshe Foundation. I would like to thank them. We wouldn't have been here without them. Every one of them in different way has participated in development. Yeah? So it's not individual. Individually doesn't exist. Yes? Question? Any other question? Yes?
Do you use a special frequency in the course?
Frequency doesn't exist for us. I don't look at the frequency. Frequency becomes when it becomes matter. Above matter level, there is no frequency. It's a continuous motion. And I work in that level. Frequency comes when you have different strength of barriers. So you need to go through it. It's a very fine definition if you understand it. Yes?
Can the reactor be abused when I buy one?
We made sure it will not be done. It's well protected. I respect authorities and national governments. Doesn't matter it is. My system cannot become an abuse tool for you to harm your neighbors or your nation.
No, I mean, when I provide a system like that, maybe somebody steals it from me, and then what can happen with it?
Nothing. You have a GPS on your system, and a guy very recently tried to steal a unit from us. We just switched off. The system doesn't work. I said, bring it back. We want to have a look why it doesn't work. And he was very stupid. He brought it back. He said, this is it. It doesn't work. I said, it's good because you tried to do a stupid thing with it, so we know it's switched off. We are very simple, but we are highly in control of our technology. Believe you me, I'm more in control than anybody thinks. Yes, please.
To what extent is this technology depending on rare earth metals? Or
Nothing. No, it only I'm a nuclear physicist. I specialize in plasma. I only work plasma. You never notice something here. You've been sitting here watching me walking. My best friend in energy and food production is this lot here. This is made by my wife. She crushed them by my wife. This is the caps of Coca-Cola bottle. CH. It's the simplest form I can get to the proton, to the plasma. Real materials are people who don't understand. You don't need to go up to break it down. CH, carbon material, you separate the carbon. In a very simple way, it becomes what is in these things and the coatings, yeah, with the diamond structure. You take the hydrogen. It's very easy to strip the plasma of the electron from proton, and that's all I need. Heavy rare materials are a habit of man. Next question. Yeah. The lady behind you, just 1 second, please. Yeah, come on, stand up. Yeah. Or is it gentleman? Sorry about that. I'm getting old. Yeah. Yes.
Has it been built and has it?
Yes, it's been built, it's been tested. I have come to an agreement with Mr. Hettinger that we don't speak about it, but yes, it has been tested. And we've lost a few, put it that way. Because we didn't understand how to control the gravity and the magnetic field. If you find a piece of metal in your yard, belongs to Keshe Foundation, bring it back. Yes, it's very easy if you understand. Solar system is another plasma, and it has its own magnetic gravitational field. If you create magnetic gravitational field of the next solar system, you just get attracted to it.
So did you then have contact with other life?
I will not answer that because I kept on asking. I'm not a, what do you call it, alien, but I tell you they exist. I explain the reality in physics. One more question, yes?
Is it easy to detect like another magnetic
Fields? Yes.
Because you say when, for instance, you want to go to the moon,
You create the matching field. It needs a lot of experience. It needs a lot. We learn every day. Believe you me, I've lost so many pieces. And the thing is, a lot of people look at our technology. This is how advanced we are. Governments don't understand how advanced we are. We create gravitational magnetic fields with a system which are made of plastic. There is no heat. There is no heat. Yes?
what happens when you arrive on the moon?
Nothing. You create this, you extend your shield. Now I'm going to answer you something, and then this belongs to the government who's testing it will confirm to you. Landing on the moon or Mars is as easy as landing your car. You extend your barrier because you have control over the magnetic gravitational field. You don't need to live in a cube, as the Americans are going to do. When you finish, it's like camping. You shrink it to the size you want to go to the next destination. We tested this and it works. Any more? Yes?
If an atom should decay into two pieces, a proton and an electron.
Not an atom, a neutron.
Okay. Into two pieces, does it need less energy than the neutron?
No, it releases some of it, but what is held together is not the same as before. It's a less of magnetic field. Because some of it, when they split, is released to the environment, the surrounding. So if you read my last book, The Creation of Universe, we explain that we have a mother universe, the same as the neutron decays to electron and the proton. Our universe, which is, okay, this rubbish Big Bang theory about, is through the same process. Sometime in the past, we had a mother, universe, which has a split like exactly what a neutron does. We can't be any different. Even we would like to think it's different, but the reality is a bigger universe has divided into our universe and the next universe, what we call a sister universe. And we know that the sister universe exists because NASA has released data which confirms the position of the next universe through a great magnetic field. Yes?
What's the intelligence behind creation? Like if matter and plasma and gravity and this is all the soup becoming whatever, I mean that's a problem in quantum physics. In quantum physics now we know what the smallest matter is. The problem is they don't know how that becomes whatever, chair, table.
Yeah, it's just how much more you can attract to become the more of the bigger. That's why in one of my talks recently I explained this is one of the problems we have in the control system of the space reactors, is that because now we work above the speed of light, some of the plasma converts into matter and what we call a loading at the moment. So we start with a 5 kilo reactor, it goes to 7 kilo reactor without having control because the material residue reduces enough to become matter at the boundary of the reactor. And that's how we produce the plasma of, proton or fat, as you call it, and diamonds. Because then you can control what you want to become, what we call loaded matter. Yes?
Two more questions.
Yeah. He decides, I'm just here.
But there is a fundamental problem in your theory, because if you say you can make an infinite amount of gold, then there is a very big problem because our bigger money has an amount.
That is a financial. We took our diamonds to the diamond bourse years ago and they tested it and we agreed we will not touch the diamond market. We are not here to destroy the structure of humanity. There is not a flaw in it. There is a lot of intelligence in it. Keeping peace is more important than somebody having 10 kilo of gold. Yes?
What makes an electron, a proton, and a neutron?
A neutron divides and becomes an electron and a proton.
Yeah, but what is the difference?
It's the amount of it. It's just like exactly that cup. How much of which one? The more you have, you go from electron to become a proton. Then the more you have of it, if you haven't lost, it becomes a neutron. The more you have becomes a molecule because they attract inside each other to stay bigger and bigger.
So why would be an electron negative and a proton positive?
Who says that? That's the old physics. Come to me, I'll teach you the reality. It's not that way.
We have to call this event and this presentation to an end at some point. Many thanks, Mr. Keshe, for your presentation. Many thanks for being here. I think I've seen a lot of presentations, but you are definitely the craziest one I've ever seen. Thanks very much for coming. Thanks very much. I think there was perhaps some more time to discuss with each other, whatever, what you've been hearing, etc. But we have to start moving and closing the event and the day. Also for the rest of the building. So many thanks for coming, and I hope you stay interested in what we're doing. Yep. Cheers.